Okay guys, we're going to continue on with Rhino. We're going to look at creating some blocks here, arranging them and moving them using some simple commands in Rhino. So what we're going to start off is just here. You'll notice any little menu item with an arrow, a grey little arrow pointing down, means that there's more things in that menu if you just click that. So you notice here we have all our primitives, cylinders, pyramids, truncated pyramids, tubes, pipes, cones. For the purpose of this exercise, we're just going to start off with a box. So we're just going to left click on that, and you'll notice straight away in our command line some options pop up. So if we have grid snap enabled, that'll mean that our cursor jumps between all these little grid points. This can be good sometimes, or it can be annoying, so just remember you can always just turn that on and off just by clicking. You see now that our cursor moves smoothly. And we're going to use it in this case to click right on the origin point, or 0, 0. So if I click there, drag my cursor out to here, I've started making my cube, so I'll just left click on that. I know that's a 10mm cube because I've gone out to those major grid lines, they're a bit darker. Okay, so I'm done working in that view. I'm just going to move my mouse down to the front view, and you can see now I'm pulling out the shape. I can double check that by looking at my perspective view, and in that case I can see the shape growing or shrinking. Again, I'm just going to pull that up to the 10mm line, and you'll see now if I go to shaded, so I'll just left click here and go to shaded, rotate around by clicking right mouse, you can see I've created a cube that's 10 by 10mm. That's one way to do it. I'm going to do it another way as well, so I'm just going to click on this object, I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard to get rid of it. If I want to undo that, I can hit Control Z, and all those options are found here in the edit menu, so undo and delete. Okay. This time I'm going to make a cube again, the exact same way, except I'm going to do it using commands. So up here in the command line, it's going to ask me for the first corner of base. So I'm going to hit 0, 0, and I'll hit enter. And you'll notice it starts me building at 0, 0. Next thing it's asking me is the corner of the base or length. So I'm going to type in 10. And you notice that that locks me here. 10 again because we're using millimeters, so 10mm is 1 centimeter. I'm going to hit 10 again, and you can see now I've locked in a 10 by 10 cube, and I'm going to hit 10 again and then hit enter, and we're done. To repeat a command, so let's say I want to build another cube, I'm just going to hit enter, and it's going to open up this dialog again, and you can see that I'm actually creating a box again. So if you need to do multiple things, this can help. Okay. You'll notice that if I have multiple cubes, they're all different pieces. So you'll see that I've created 3 cubes now. I'm going to double click on perspective here to open it up. You'll see that if I click on them, even though they're sort of together, I can still move them individually. And again, I've got grid snapping turned on, so you can see how that sort of moves 1mm at a time. Okay, you can see I've created like some Legos. Okay. Again, to turn on that colored dialog, we're going to hit gumball, and that allows us to move things nice and easily. Okay. Now, once we have some objects, we may want to do a couple of simple commands to them. This could include making them larger or smaller, moving or rotating them. So what we're going to look at first is rotating. So to do this, you need to select an object. In this case, I'm going to get rid of these 2 cubes by just hitting delete. and we're just going to have this one object here. I'm going to type rotate into my command, so ROTATE, and hit enter. You can see I've now entered the tool because in the command line it says select objects to rotate. If your command line is narrow like this, generally I like to have it bigger so I can see what it's doing. Rhino will give you feedback up here as to what you're doing, so it can be handy to have it a bit bigger. So what I'm going to do is select my object to rotate. In this case, I'm going to click my cube, press enter when done. So you could have selected multiple objects here, but I've just selected one, so I'm going to hit enter. Again, whatever feels more comfortable to you. You can use hit enter, spacebar, or right mouse button. They all do the same thing. I normally use right mouse button. I find it quicker because my hand's there already. Okay. This is where it gets a little bit complicated. So it's asking me for the center of my rotation. So in this case, I'm just going to click on the center, or 0, 0. You can see my mouse in perspective is right on the center there. I'm using my top view just to make sure. Okay, I'm going to click there. Angle or first reference point. So generally speaking, I tend to keep this as being a straight line. It can go anywhere you like. I'm going to click it here, and you'll see now we can start rotating our object. Now again, I'm rotating in top view, so you can see top is selected, so it's rotating that way. At this point we can type in an angle, so these are all going to be positive angles going this way. So here you've got 90, 180, 270, 360. So for this example I'm going to type 45 and hit enter. Okay, there you go. That's been rotated by 45 degrees. We can right click with the object selected again. It's asking me for my center rotation. Again, right clicking gets you back into the tool. I'm going to try that again. I'm going to rotate again by 90 this time. And there you go. Okay, so it's rotated around 90 degrees. That's pretty much it for rotate. You can do it in any view. So again, I'm just going to type in rotate, select object, right click, select where I want to rotate from, and then select which point I want to rotate, and rotate around. And all you need to think of it as is just like a circle, like your shoulder. The first point you click is your shoulder, the second point you click is like your hand, and then you can rotate it around however you want. It might seem a bit like overkill for doing something that's seemingly simple, but it's actually really handy to get things aligned correctly in a more complex model. I'm going to undo all that. So to do that, I'm going to hit Control Z. So I'm going to hit that Control Z until it goes back to the original position. There you go. Okay. The next tool we're going to look at is the Scale tool. So again, I'm going to type in Scale, S-C-A-L-E. You notice we have some options here. I'm just going to go to Scale. I'm going to click that. Again, same setup, select objects to scale, click my cube, press enter when done. I am done, so I'm going to press enter. Again, we've got the same idea of an origin point, so where we start scaling from. So I'll show you what that does. So I'm going to click the origin again, 0, 0, where we want to scale to, and then we can click and drag to make it larger or smaller. Again, you can see my mouse is still snapping to those grid snap points, so I can accurately scale that up to being 4 times the size in this case. So that's a 20 by 20 by 20. Sorry, 4 times the volume. Okay. Remember to pan around is shift and right click. Right click to turn around. Let's undo that, Control Z, and we'll look at scale again. This time I'm going to right click for scale because it was the last tool I used, so if I right click it's going to come up again. Origin point. This time I'm going to do the center of the cube. and you'll notice now that it scales differently. It's scaling about the center, so those kind of terms you'll get used to, but that's why this is relevant, because it's scaling from somewhere to somewhere new. In this case, if I go to that same point again, I've made a cube that's 8 times the volume, or 9 times, or whatever it is. And that's how we use the scale tool. These can be found here: move, rotate, but it's easier just to type them in. We have some other options in scale, so I'm going to type scale again and go to scale 1D. That just means scale in one dimension. This is really handy. So for instance, if we wanted to turn this cube into a rectangular prism, what we'd do is click scale 1D. I'm going to select the object to scale. Okay, press enter when done. Origin point, in this case I'll do this bottom corner. Okay. Next reference, this is, in this case, it's just going to be arbitrary, so I'm just going to click here. And you'll notice now it's only going to scale in the direction I've selected. So now it's going from a cube, it's only scaling in the Z direction, because that's the direction I selected. And if I wanted to do it in the X direction now, right click to get back into the tool, select my object, right click, select that bottom corner again, except this time I'm going to move my cursor in the X direction. Okay, and then I'm going to drag it out. You'll see now that's only scaled in X. So that's really handy, simple tools to scale and rotate an object. You have to sort of remember that where you scale and rotate from have an effect, so you need to be aware of those two options. The last option I'm going to show you is called a mirror command. So this just reflects an object. So in the case of a cube, we could just rotate it and we'd be able to, get the thing going in any direction. But some shapes can't be rotated; they're asymmetrical. So if you want the other side of it, you need to mirror it. Mirror is just what it sounds like. It's just like reflecting the object in a mirror. Okay. So to do that, I'm just going to double click on my top view to open it up. I'm going to type in mirror, M-I-R-R-O-R. Again, select objects to mirror, right click or enter when done. Start of mirror plane. Okay, so this is where it's a little bit different. So in this case we have to sort of set up where the mirror would be. In this case I'm going to keep that in my top view. I'm going to say the mirror starts here, and you can see it's projecting. It's giving me a preview, and it ends right there. You can see I've done a straight line there. A quick way to lock yourself into a straight line is to hold shift. This goes with anything. So in the case of drawing a line, it actually means you lock to 90, and if I move my cursor around, it will go around at all the sort of straight line angles that are possible. So I could do it vertically, horizontally. With shift still selected, if I left click, so I'm still holding shift, I left click, and then I can release, and you'll notice that's created a mirror copy as if there was a mirror where I put that line. And you can see now we have two objects. If I go back into that tool, so again I'm going to right click, select object to mirror. You'll notice here where tools start getting a little bit more complex, we have some options. So the main option I want to point you guys to is the copy option. So you saw here that this made a copy of my object in that mirror plane. If I just click that with my left mouse button, it'll change it to no. And if in this case, if I do a mirror over here, it actually moves my object rather than copying it across. That's something to be aware of. There's always extra options in these menus just here. They've sort of got a little underline. And the little underlined letter is actually a shortcut. So if I hit C and press enter, it changes the option of C. And that's because C is the shortcut there. It's just easy to click it. Okay, cool. This video is done. That's the basic of moving and scaling an object around. Thank you very much.